Hello everyone, welcome into my channel. My name is Jer and we are talking about UK versus the world, episode 7. This is the haters wedding roast. There's so much to talk about, so much to unpack, so much to forget about. So Teresa is gone from the competition. I won't lie, this is kind of the top 5 that I envisioned. I'm not mad at it at all. And I love that one queen from every country is represented. It really feels like a versus the world situation. The last 2 seasons, we've had 2 queens from a country being represented in the top 4. So in UK1, we had 2 Americans and we had 2 UKs. And then in Canada, we had 2 Americans. This season, there's only 1 queen from each season represented, and I love that. So nice to see. Also, it has been pointed out that there has been 1 UK queen in the bottom every single week from week 1. Will this be the week that that cycle gets broken? Yes, it turns out it is. We get a little bit of awkward tension in the workroom that Hannah chose Scarlett's name because she has no rapport with her. She tried to make it sound like a different type of scenario, but when she was talking about how she wanted just a cohesive, harmonic experience in the workroom, I had a really big question mark because that makes it seem like Scarlett is this disruptive disturbance in the workroom. And I just don't see her being that way, or that she's breaking the vibes that hard. But clearly Hannah felt that she didn't have a good relationship with her and that she didn't want her to be there. So that was kind of awkward, and we saw that that scenario ended up playing out at the end of the episode too. So RuPaul comes in the workroom, and the very first thing that she says is, "¿Cómo estás?" But she doesn't say it that way. She said, "¿Cómo está?" or something. I don't even know. How the hell did she say it? But it was goddamn hateful to say "Cómo estás" after Teresa's left the workroom. And also breaking the hello, hello, hello. But it was just weird. She didn't even pronounce it right. I just finished Thailand season 2. And there is a queen named Anjali Anang. And they do a video message from Ru to basically be like, "Hey everyone, super proud of you down in Thailand. Thanks for representing. Slay, work, pussy boots, mama." And Ru says, "Andale Anang." Anjali is a name that we have here in America. It's not hard. So how did she not pronounce "Cómo estás"? She's in California all the time. She knows how to say "Cómo estás." People speak Spanish like everywhere around here. You cannot walk down a corner in LA without seeing a taco truck with actual Mexican people that are running it who speak Spanish only. How do you mess up "Cómo estás"? It's impossible. I don't know how she did it. My Mexican rage is flaring. The mini challenge is a bachelorette hen party. I personally have never heard the word hen party before, and I found out that that is sort of regional phrase. They had to do quick drag, which I think is evil. I think anytime they give them like 20 minutes to get in drag, that's just despicable. And whoever makes them do that should honestly be slapped across the face and have their dinner farted in by their chef. Marina dressing up as a devil when Teresa had just gone home was hilarious, whether that was intended or not. It made me cackle. It's basically a gong show dance party, also kind of musical chairs, and RuPaul cut someone at the end of each musical stop. This was stupid and silly, and anytime we get a chance to just do something silly and dumb, I'm totally here for it. Hannah ends up winning the mini challenge and does get a slight benefit. We find out that the main challenge is the sham wedding of Michelle and Graham, and it's a roast right before the wedding, and I thought this was such a fun prompt. I enjoy the idea of roasts, and I like when they theme them to something. It sort of gives you a little bit more to work off of, and it allows you to really show your creativity and improv. Roasting is something that a lot of people in the drag world should be able to do because theoretically you're on a mic all the time and you're sort of just barking at people in the club, maybe even reading them, throwing a little shade if they're being a certain type of way, or maybe you've got a friend that you're about to introduce. All right, tonight we wanted to start off with a really good joke for the show, so introducing my very good friend, Alana Beaverhausen. Everyone, put your hands together. Nobody did? Great, she's used to that. Here she is. You know, being able to throw a little bit of shade should be something that drag queens should be able to do fairly easily. And we saw some people struggle a little bit in this challenge. And because Hannah won the mini challenge, she does get to choose the lineup. We find out that no one's done a roast before. Roasting is not really something they do in France, because French people just don't really talk to each other that way. If they were to roast, it would just sound mean. And this is another example of comedy not translating between your native language and the language that you're translating into. Going back to what I said in an earlier episode, that I don't know if comedy and improv challenges should be a thing that international queens should have to do amongst each other. In your own season and in your own region, it's okay if you want to do comedy challenges because everybody's sort of on the same playing field. When you're intermixed with people whose comedy is supposed to gel with an American host, you're kind of at an extreme disadvantage unless you're from a English-speaking country like the UK or like Down Under. But even then, you're still dealing with regional comedy that might not translate to someone who can't even say como estas properly. I'm like really upset about that. Hannah, once again, is super diplomatic with the order. She asks everyone where they're kind of comfortable and then tries to build the show around that. She talks about wanting to be strategic and maybe making it so that she looks really good, but she also feels like making a good show is more imperative. And in my opinion, if you're good at something, it doesn't matter where you go. You will always be good. If you're not good at something, you're always gonna kind of flop. I think about season 3 where Shangela rigged that comedy challenge so that she would look really good and then people like Carmen and Delta and Manila and Raja would look bad. Because Carmen had a good concept, even if it was problematic in today's standards, and she had a funny character in her head of what she wanted to do, it translated joke-wise, so it didn't matter that she was sandwiched between really funny people. She stood out. Raja had a really good concept, and so she was able to make her comedy work. People like Delta and Manila just didn't have good concepts, so it didn't matter where they weren't super funny. In the end of the day, the people that knew what they were doing shined. And here, the people that knew what they were doing shined. I'm finally realizing in this episode how well spoken Hannah Conda is, and I just really enjoy her thought process and the way that she just volleys out words. She speaks with such intelligence and thoughtfulness every single time, and I really admire that about her. Tia's really leaning into the dad jokes, which it is what it is. I think dad jokes are fun. It's not something I've really seen from drag queens before. I'm not really like, yes, every single time, because I think dad jokes are funny situationally. I don't know, I think maybe if like I saw Tia live and she was on a mic, maybe I would laugh at those dad jokes, but I don't know. Dad jokes feel very like straight comedian to me. So let's talk about roasts really quick, because a good roast is all about wit. It's about being yourself, and it's about trusting your personal expertise. If you are good at something, lean into that. Don't pull back at all. Lean straight into what you're knowledgeable in. There's one really good roast that I think about. I think it's the roast of Heclina, may she rest in peace. And it's Coco Peru. And Coco says something like, do you know what her favorite smell is? It's this STI. Do you know what her favorite place is? It's this STI. Do you know what her favorite thing is? This STI. Do you know what her favorite ice cream flavor is? And she pauses and the whole audience goes, STI. And she goes, no, it's chocolates with STIs. And the whole audience roars because Coco was setting up a bait and switch, a long bait and switch, but it was really funny. And I'm sure you could probably guess what that STI was that she was talking about, but it sets up a funny hook. And all that to say, a good roast is about making sure that you are leaning into your strengths. And so on that end, Tia's good at dad jokes, so maybe it's good that she's leaning into them. Our guest judge was Catherine Ryan, and she was doing an Alexis P. Bevels cosplay today. Whether or not she meant to, that's what she was giving. And today the P stands for +1, because it's a wedding. So for the look, Hannah's wearing a Liza Minnelli inspired outfit, which I thought was smart because the whole premise of her set was that this is a lavender wedding. And I'm really loving the trajectory that Hannah is taking this season with being really queer educational, talking about dykes on bikes, talking about lavender weddings, bringing up queer issues throughout the whole season so that we're really getting educated, because a lot of our queer history is sort of getting lost among the generations. And in this era of RuPaul and having our voices amplified to a different degree, allowing some of our history to come through storytelling is really smart. And so I appreciated that. She referenced a lot of famous female celebrities who have married gay men and have been their beards, and compared that to what was going on with Michelle and Graham, and I thought that was really fun. On that note, did Graham seem like pissed off to anybody? Like, did he not get his contract renewed for UK 6 and he's just furious that he's not gonna be there? Was he like having a bloaty day or what? Because he was scowling. The only thing I'll say is that Hannah seemed a little bit nervous in her set. Maybe that was just me being overly perceptive, but she seemed like she was just sort of talking really fast and trying to get through it. And she seemed more comfortable during the coaching session than she did on the main stage. La Grande Dame was giving us a beautiful red look. She tried to really lean in on the mean, but didn't commit that well to it. And ultimately her pacing was off, much like in Snatch Game. Her one funny joke was page not found when talking about the Wikipedia page of our guest judge. And I love nothing more than when the contestants do not know who the guest judge is, but they have to feign like, oh my God, oh, I can't believe it's them. Because they don't want the guest judge to feel bad that nobody knows who they are. So they fake a reaction. And I love that that came out in the roast. Like, we don't know who you are. And the world doesn't either. You don't even have a Wikipedia page. Next up was Marina, and she started really strong by saying that she thought she was going to be the one struggling with English. And I thought that set up a good joke right off the bat. She was surprisingly really funny, and I laughed the hardest at Marina's jokes. She talked about how if you can't get married, find someone who's successful, rich, and beautiful. And both Michelle and Graham failed at that task. I laughed. I thought it was hilarious. When she said that Scarlett and La Grande Dame were there because they were beautiful and white, and Hannah was just there because she was white, that was so funny. I screamed. That is such specific humor that I think anybody of a certain age would laugh at, but Rue would not laugh at that type of joke because she perpetuates white saviors. Rue perpetuates propelling pretty white girls to the front. So she's not gonna find that type of humor funny, but the whole rest of the world would think that's funny because we're all in on the joke. The thank you to the judge, whoever she may be, also made me cackle. And then at the end, referring to Rue as Beyonce, that tied off this whole experience for me. And then of course she did the eye look, which she knows the judges laugh at, and that's a good strength to lean in on. I thought she was exceptionally funny and memorable. Scarlett was doing this 80s look, which I want to talk about. I feel like her look here in the challenge and her look on the runway could have easily been flip-flopped. And I'll get into that in a second. But first, let's talk about the actual set. She spoke way too quick. Her dialogue was going this fast, and she needed to slow down the pacing, allow the room to breathe, allow the jokes to set in. For me, it was very much like when Bendela, during the season 6 comedy challenge, was saying, I'm from Seattle, and it's a very moist area, but it's my moist area, and the people in Seattle are really regular. Those are funny jokes, but she didn't allow it to set in. Seattle's a really moist area, but it's my moist area. Allowing a joke to breathe so that people can hear what you're saying, hear what you're giving to them, and allow them to savor that bite is the key to a roast or a comedy of any kind. And Scarlett was just speeding through these jokes and they weren't landing because they weren't funny. Nothing was sticking to the proverbial wall as she was throwing spaghetti at it. And she leaned in on that Valley Girl thing that Scarlett does when she doesn't really have a character, and Rue's never laughed at that. Rue doesn't think that shit is funny, and I don't know why she still did it. It's like she wasn't paying attention to the fact that that comedy was never going to work and did it anyway. So getting into the runway portion really fast, if Scarlett had done a bad Elvis impersonator type situation, not doing a character study, but doing a legitimate Elvis impersonator in Vegas, like, oh, we're here to, I'm doing Cher, we're here to officiate the wedding of Michelle and Graham, ho, it's Cher, it's Cher, it's Cher, just can't help falling in love, can we kids, ho, I can't do Elvis. I can't do it. My Cher, my Bill Clinton, and my Elvis are the same people. Anyway, she should have done that and then done this 80s look for the runway, and I think that would have been so nice to see. And I think you could land a lot more jokes, especially if you leaned in on an officiant of the wedding. You were the one who did it, and sort of go in the route that Manila did during the All Stars 5 roast, where she was providing Bunny's will and saying what everybody got as more of someone who exists in this world of that funeral. If Scarlett had maybe leaned in on being the officiant so that she actually lived in this space, not just someone who was attending the wedding, I think that could have been fun, and I think it would have translated better. I still think she would have been in the bottom because I don't think Scarlett is particularly super funny in these types of experiences, but I don't think it would have been as like, stop. And then Tia finally had the dossier, leaning in on something that Rue and the judges have been cackling at. I really love Dearly Tolerated. That was hysterical to me. Her Spice Girls moment was funny, talking about who each one of the girls would be. And then Le Grand Dame's favorite city being compared to her trajectory in the competition as Toulouse was absolutely phenomenal. That knocked it out of the park. I loved Michael Face. I thought that was funny, but overall, I thought maybe she could have focused more on the judges. I feel like she spent too much time on the girls, and I wanted her to talk about Graham and Michelle more. And then our runway theme is Take Me Down the Aisle. I love this concept, and I love that this season of Drag Race, this world, this timeline that we're in, is all about wedding stuff. Because in Canada's Drag Race, they had to do a bridesmaid themed runway, and so I don't know what's going on with the wedding theme in WoW Presents Global, that they're like, do wedding themes, but something is going on. Maybe they're doing like a wedding show soon. Hannah is the very first one out. I love this look, and I love that she went really traditional bridal because I don't think anybody would have thought about doing something like that. I have had a problem with Hannah's breast cups all season, and I don't like this one either. It is such a minuscule thing to complain about, but I am not a fan of spiky boobs. I love a cone bra, but when the dress comes up into like these villain spikes, I don't respond to that. It does not make my fashion brain go, woo! The dress itself is beautiful. I just wish it was sweetheart only. Minor complaint. Hannah absolutely deserved a top 2 placement because of this look. And like I always say, the runways sort of pin you in the top or propel you up there or anchor you to the bottom. Next up is Le Grand Dame in this uranium yellow dress. And this is a statement piece. This is a showstopper number with all of this, what I can only assume is tulle that are in these mounds. The distressing on the dress is really nice. I like the way that it all lays on her. And she still manages to have a really cool silhouette despite all of this fabric on her. And then the headpiece being just something simple and chaotic, I think was a nice focal point because there's so much happening on the dress. It's hard to focus your eyes. But then you get up to that head and there's all these little pieces that are there that it draws your eyes upwards and away from the mass of fabric. The only thing I'll say is it doesn't feel bridal to me. This is very red carpet. This is very French runway. This is the final outfit that you'd see in a Galliano show. This is like the last thing that would come out that would make you drop your mouth. This finishes off the collection. And I think we've seen that from Le Grand Dame every single week. It's something that just makes you go, wow, this was great, but it had nothing to do with bridal. So this sort of anchored her in the bottom. Not that her comedy was great or anything, but this definitely anchored her down there. Next up is Marina Summers. And oh my God, remember that sound that Michelle did during the volcano runway where she was like, oh, oh, oh. That was me. Every step that Marina took, I was moaning. This look, big nut. This was so beautiful. I've never seen anything like this presented in front of RuPaul before. Stunning, and it was so drag. It was so well tailored. The colors were luxe. This, in my opinion, propelled Marina to the top. Taking bridal and bringing it to your culture and showing your unique perspective on this runway prompt was smart, and I appreciated that. And I was thoroughly disappointed that she was even considered bottom. If you're not in the top, you're in the bottom sucks. I understand it for consistency purposes. And on seasons where they don't do it, I get grumpy because other seasons had to do it. But I kind of just wish they would do away with it altogether. And then next up is Scarlet Envy giving us a Elvis look. And I already explained that I think that these looks should have been swapped. Had she done a more traditional kind of 80s thing and then maybe had a big satellite phone with the antenna that comes out and then midway through calls and then like runs off the stage like, I gotta go. He left me at the altar. Bye, everyone. I think that that could have been more fun, but I do appreciate this Elvis look. I love the lining that's on this dress because that is 100% lame. And it's such a cheap fabric, but it looks expensive here because that white fabric is so expensive. The detailing at the bottom of the parachute pants that go all the way up from the crotch all the way to the shoulders, almost like a bikini. Stunning. Scarlett has never looked better. This might be one of my favorite looks right next to the rose runway because that was top tier as well. And then finally is Tia Kofi, and I don't even want to look at this. I hate this. I'm sorry. I think I just really hate like babies and infants a lot. Like I really don't like children at all. And I think I just have an angry disposition towards them because this was gross. And I watched Dragula where some of those monsters are taking mop bucket water and chugging it like it's happy hour. And this made me gag. This calcified little gremlin in this see-through pocket, I despised. I kind of wish that this was like a little green baby or something because that maybe would have been cute with like the big alien eyes. And then it wouldn't have been so disgusting. If she had like a big cheeseburger that was in there, that would have been funny as hell. Like, I'm giving birth to a food baby. I don't think I would have had such a viscerally grossed out response to this look. I also did not understand the eyebrow with all the pearls and the gems right underneath it, but not perfectly underneath it, because there were all these gaps between the pearls and the eyebrows. Like she just didn't give herself enough space to put everything in there, or she ran out of materials, ran out of time. I don't know, but I didn't like that. And then there's this weird like stuff right here. Was that supposed to be the dad nut? I don't know. The lace details were nice. The cutouts were nice. The hair was a little bit bizarre. Like, we gotta be weird for the sake of weird to really sell this story. I don't think it needed to be this complicated. Doing a pregnancy storyline is hilarious. And I think doing a pregnancy storyline for Take Me Down the Aisle works, and wanting to bring it to a different place, like let's bring it to the future, let's bring it to an alien scenario, is funny, and that's how you would explain the clear belly so you could show the baby. But it's like she built this outfit around this calcified little crusty baby and wanted to make a story around that, and I wish that she had just been pregnant in a nice dress, and that would have been fine. So for me, this made her like safe, despite how good her presentation was in the roast. I really despised this look. I could not say how much more I hate this. I could, but I don't want to. So in my opinion, the top two was Hannah and Marina. Marina being up there because of how good this runway was, it launched her into top for me. I was totally offended that they even said that she stumbled because I didn't feel that she stumbled at all, but maybe that was edited out. She seemed fine to me. If anything, Hannah stumbled and was tripping over her words. Even Tia at some points wasn't super confident. But to say that Marina was unconfident, crazy people stuff. These are crack-smoking judges. The top two is in fact Tia and Hannah, which I'm not terribly surprised about, but bummed nonetheless. They had to lip sync to Euphoria, and everyone was up for elimination. In my opinion, Scarlett is the one to go, but they were talking about potentially eliminating Marina. I don't believe that Hannah would do that because she's been playing super fair. I believe that Tia would have Panginaed her, and I'm so curious if next week we find out she pulled Marina's lipstick. The fandom already is being a certain type of way towards Tia, and I feel like if she pulled her lipstick, it's gonna be ravenous. Even though she didn't win, I just don't think that's gonna be good for her mental health or her online spaces for a while if she did that. So I'm hoping for her sake that she didn't, because some of these Drag Race fans be fucking crazy, man. In the lip sync, Tia pulls out a black glove, which I can only assume was meant to represent mayhem, because then she pulled out a black clover, which I can only assume she was referencing Jonbers. but then did not pull out anything for Arancha, pulls out a big pink K for, I'm assuming, Kita, did not do anything for Gothi, and then pulled out Teresa's panties. So I thought, what is she trying to tell here? Even the judges kind of looked at her like, what are you doing? And I thought, is she trying to show like all these girls are gone and she's still here? I don't understand what that had to do with the song. And she was just so distracting with these props that Hannah just ate her up. I don't even know how you could properly do that in a lip sync unless you actually had like photos of the eliminated girls somehow and then were ripping them up on the runway, maybe. But even then, like, it has to match the energy of the song. Pulling out random props and doing random things only works if the song provides that, or if you are doing such a compelling performance that it makes sense. And she wasn't committing to anything, so it was weird. I don't know what the hell that was. Hannah wins, eliminates Scarlett. Totally makes sense after the way the cold open started with her talking about how she wanted to eliminate Scarlett. So she fulfilled the thing she wanted to do last week, and Hannah secures her very first and probably only badge of the season. It was a super blah lip sync. I mean, even with the armography that she was doing, I was just so distracted by how much space Tia was sucking up, not doing anything, that I just couldn't even appreciate what Hannah was trying to do. But Rue saying to Scarlett as she left, "You will always be the drama," did make me smile, and I was happy that Scarlett got that confirmation from Rue that she always will be that. Third time is not a charm, unfortunately, for Scarlett, and she is out, which leaves our top four as Hannah Conda, La Grande Dame, Marina Summers, and Tia Kofi. Who are you rooting for, and who do you want to win? Next week is the reunion / the lip sync smackdown, and I love that we're roping in the reunion into this and tying off a bow. This will be the first All-Stars type reunion I think that we've ever had. Unless it was one for UK1 and I missed it because I skipped out a lot of that season after Pangina went home. I was kind of just done. I would love to know who you're rooting for. I think I know. Let's ask the audience, shall we? I'm super nervous. I have the worst feeling that they're going to give the herpy-derpiest song to Marina so that she'll lose to someone like Hannah or Tia. I don't even see her losing a lip sync, and they're going to have to Monet Exchange edit that lip sync to push someone through. And I feel like next week is going to be just mayhem if Marina is not top two. Someone on TikTok did say something very lovely, which was, even if Marina doesn't win, she's won all our hearts and she's represented the world and her country on such a beautiful scale. And I agree with that. I still want her to win, but if she doesn't, in my heart, she won the season. And I think it doesn't really matter who wins the prize at the end. It's who did the best and who won the fans' hearts. So we'll see what happens next week. I'm so nervous. Thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts on this episode in the comments below. And I will see you all next week for the finale. Oh, and if you like other Drag Race content, you should check out some of my other playlists. I would really appreciate that because I got a lot of Drag Race content. See you on the flip. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, make sure to click that like button. And if you want to see more, hit subscribe. Goodbye.